You're listening to Morning Motivation with Matthew. Morning Motivation is a podcast that helps you focus on setting your week in motion. Each episode, we'll dive into topics focused on being and remaining motivated. Regardless of what stage you are in life, we need men who are now more committed than ever and dedicated to not giving up, not just for those around you, but for yourself. We want you to live a life fulfilled and not allowing 10 or 15 years to go by wishing you've achieved that goal you had. Look, I'm not saying I get it right all the time, but what I can tell you is that I'm fighting to keep it together. I decided to start this journey into podcasting based on life lessons and gleaning from mentors who've helped me every step of the way. Remaining motivated is more than just saying you're motivated. It's a choice followed by an action. A choice to get out of bed every morning, not knowing what the day will hold. A choice to continue holding down the family and supporting everyone else mentally, emotionally, financially, and physically. Remaining motivated is knowing that regardless of your current situation, you are dedicated to achieving success and inspired by those around you who are making it happen. I'll be sharing my own stories and life experiences. Along the way, I'll have guests who can share insight and resources geared to helping us remain motivated together. I'm sure not all will agree, and I'm sure I'm bound to have some hiccups along the way. What I can promise is we will grow together while remaining motivated, all while keeping it together. Good morning, and welcome back to another episode of Morning Motivation with Matthew. I'm your host, Matthew, and I'm so happy that you've decided to join us on today. Let me start off by saying how excited and happy I am to be back after a week away. As you all know, as I've shared before, I am currently working on my master's degree in counseling psychology. And let me tell you, it has been an extremely busy few weeks. I started the program at the top of January, so we've been going strong for about a month now, and I am enjoying the process. However, the process to some degree, not fully, but to some degree, is kicking my butt. So I'm so happy just to be back. I took a quick break solely for my mental health, with school, work, family, and everything else in between. At times, you just need a break in order for you to be able to recruit. So I'll be honest in sharing that, the one break was good. I could have used a few more, but again, I'm just so happy to be back. More than anything, as a husband, as a father, right? I'm working on balancing everything at the same time. And it's been somewhat of a struggle because some things get more attention than others, especially while trying to make sure that I'm working on my master's degree while maintaining my home and taking care of my family. It's definitely a balancing act. But I have no regrets as to what it is that I'm doing, what it is that I'm trying to and or hoping to accomplish. And so I'm just happy to be back, and I'll share a little bit more about that in just a second. But before I get into that, let me also say we are still in the month of February. And so what that means is that we are still celebrating Black History Month, all month long. And I'm so happy. Obviously, if I'm being honest, 1 month just isn't enough to celebrate Black history, Black excellence. And so I am just so excited and living proudly in my Black heritage. For those who have actually come before me and have an opportunity to represent them and represent them well. So happy Black History Month. The show must go on, the party must continue, all of the above. But on top of that, I want to say happy Valentine's Day. And a special shout out to my boo, Miss CG. Wishing you a happy Valentine's Day, beautiful. But happy Valentine's Day. And we're going to get into the topic a little bit more here. But obviously, with it being morning, I am sitting here sipping on my wonderful coffee, trying to wake up. I decided to enjoy the day with my wife. She's studying and I'm studying and just enjoying the day. And as I've shared before, we're taking a bit of a mental health day on today from work, to be able to do some additional things that are productive while our kids are out of the home. Um, But let me get back onto the topic of, the importance of mental health. And again, that's not our topic today, but I definitely want to make sure that I stress this because down the line, we will definitely be talking about mental health, especially specifically for me, my Black mental health as an African American man. Um, and it's just extremely vital to me, obviously, given that I am working on earning a master's degree in counseling psychology, given that we really need more men in the field. Um, to some degree, we are at a bit of a deficit, and that's just what I solely believe as an African American man who has sought counseling before, who is currently in therapy at the moment, and as someone who's actually going into the field. Um, we're in a bit of a deficit for more than one reason, and I'll share. The first reason that I believe that we're in a bit of a deficit is because there aren't enough men, Black African American men in the field, particularly in the area in which I reside. There isn't a lot of men in the field to be able to support, to be able to guide, and to be able to provide services to other African American men. Um, we need to be able to have a space, right, to where we can be vulnerable, and we can avoid the stigma that comes with sharing how we feel. I think history has proven itself that as African American men, at times, especially in African American community, we shy away from sharing how we really feel. We shy away from that place of vulnerability, and we hold so much in, right? And to the point to where at times we explode, or um we do things to help ease the pain, drugs, alcohol, whatever your vice is. Hey, but the reason that I decided to go into counseling psychology was not only just to represent, right? Because for me, representation is extremely important. It's really the catalyst, the thing that's really catapulted me in my current career in business, because there isn't a lot of representation. I work in corporate America, I work in the financial industry, and there aren't a lot of African American men who look like me, who are trending or treading, right, from a career perspective upwards. And so for me, it's important to be able to be that beacon of hope, right? To know that when you walk in the door and you see me, or when you join this organization and you see me, that you see yourself. You see yourself. That is extremely important for me. And no different in counseling. I remember when I was looking for a counselor, and I remember how difficult it was to find someone in the field in my area. And so, as opposed to seeking assistance in the city in which I live, I had to seek it outside of the city, because there was not much representation, if any representation at all, of African American men who were going to be able to assist me. And so, my motivation is I'm hoping and I'm desiring to become a beacon of hope for men who are struggling to find support, for men who need to have an opportunity to share how they really feel without consequences, um, uh, without shame, right? Without guilt. I think oftentimes, right, as the man, we hold on to so much, and not even that, right? We are so much to so many people all the time, right? We're the husband, we're the father, we're the provider, we're the protector. And at times it can be a very weighty assignment. Now, that doesn't mean, right, that he hasn't equipped us to be able to handle and maintain and support and do everything that we need to do as Black men. However, it is still extremely weighty, extremely weighty. And so, my hope is just, like I said before, is to be that beacon of hope for men to have the support that they need. Um, I ran up on an article that was sent to me via the APA, the American Psychological Association, and it talked about Black mental health. It talked about Black mental health, and again, I'm going to get into it a little bit later in another episode. But I wanted to point out something that again really drives the emphasis for me wanting to go into this field. And it states in the article that Black men are not receiving the help they need for our problems. For example, only 26.4% of Black and African American men ages 18 to 44, that's you and me, who experience daily feelings of anxiety or depression were likely to have used mental health services compared to 45.4 of non-Hispanic white men with the same feelings. It goes on to say that when Black men do not seek help and would prefer a same race provider, it can be difficult finding Black psychologists since they still make up only about 4% of the doctoral level psychology workforce, though the number is growing, according to the 2018 APA Center for Workforce Studies data. We don't have enough representation. I cannot say it enough. And so, again, for me, it is extremely important to be able to be that beacon of hope, to be able to be that soundboard for other African American men who are struggling and who really just need support. Again, we just need support. We need people who look like us, who can listen to and relate to our problems. I was talking to my professor a few weeks ago, and he was sharing how there might have been only about 5 or 6 men of color, African American men, in the PhD program at the university that I attend who were working towards a degree in counseling psychology. And he went on to share some other data that, out of the, at the time, 80 or 90 plus programs for counseling psychology, how African American men only made up about 90 of the, maybe three, 400 plus individuals that are actually in, of African American people actually in the program. So out of 2 or 300, maybe even a little bit more African American men and women who were in the program, there were only about 90 or so men in the counseling psychology program. And so we're in a real deficit. I mean, when you think about um, the world that we live in, when you think about the climate, right, of the world that's happening right now, where um, we've already had to deal with so much oppression, right, from slavery to the civil rights movement, to even what's happening nowadays. And to think as an African American man, we have to yet and still worry and wonder and watch our back and deal with so much anxiety and depression because there's this fear of letting it all out and or letting it all out in an unhealthy way, right? We need people who can really relate to us, and we need people who are going to be able to help us navigate our feelings in a healthy way. But again, I digress. I've spent a lot of time on that, and I am going to get back to that for sure. But it's so important to me. It's near and dear to my heart, and we'll definitely be talking about it in the weeks to come. I hope to have a few friends who are therapists to come and talked a little bit more about mental health, men of color and mental health, and really the importance of mental health for African American people in general. But today's topic is entitled You Are Not Alone. And as I was thinking about what it is that I was going to talk about, and I had a few topics that I wanted to highlight, but this one really hit me hard yesterday. But when I was thinking about it, I instantly thought of famous song, and I'm not gonna sing it. I'm not gonna play it. We all know who the artist is. You can look it up. You are not alone, and I'm not gonna sing it for copyright reasons. But I instantly, when I thought about the song, I instantly thought, or when I thought about the title, rather, I instantly thought about that song. So again, look it up as you listen to it, and it'll definitely ring a bell to you. Um, but I'll start off with, just because you all know, I'm a man of God, I'm a man of faith. I am not a preacher. But as I was thinking about this particular topic, um, the scripture Isaiah 41:10 came up, and it reads, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Fear not, for I am with you. Fear not, for I am with you. Fear not, for I am with you." And I feel the essence of me really having to repeat that. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And it's something about the beginning of the verse, "Fear not, for I am with you," that really struck a chord with me. And especially knowing that today is Valentine's Day, and you might feel like you're alone right now, and you have a valid reason to feel the way that you feel, because trust me, I've been there. Even those of us who actually have someone, at times feel that we've been lonely, right? Or we've longed for something more, right? Trust me, we all have that feeling. But I'm reminded, that even when I have a feeling of, or a sense of loneliness, I'm never alone. I know that my wife is always there, but even when she wasn't there, right? Before she came along almost 13 years ago, I've never been alone. And I can only imagine how difficult um, these past 2 years have been, right? Can you imagine? We're coming up on 2 years dealing with COVID. I can only imagine how difficult it's been. But I want to remind you that you are not alone, especially on the day you might be struggling um, with the thought of being alone, or you might be struggling for whatever reason, right? Valentine's Day, in my opinion, is a very hallmark holiday, right? And it's not all rainbows and roses. Like, trust me, me and my wife are taking a mental health day, but we're taking a mental health day to be productive on today. So we're not out lollygagging and having this great old time and things of that nature. We could be, but we decided to do otherwise with our day. Um, but I wanted you to focus on things that motivate you. And so I found an article on Forbes, because anytime that I'm doing a podcast, I love to research. I love to find stuff on research. For heck, I'm a grad student, right? So what else do I have to do besides research? But I find an article on Forbes, and it provides proof of things that you can do for yourself on today. But before we get into that, I wanted to kind of highlight some of the other things that they actually reference throughout that particular article. And it indicates that we want to realize that real life is not like most rom-coms. Instead, it can be more like a really weird documentary mixed with cartoons and some instrumental videos filled with commercial breaks. In reality, good relationships require work and have their ups and downs. Heck, bad relationships can be much, much worse than no relationships at all. Many others may feel just like you. Whether you know it or not, you've got plenty of company. They go on to say, therefore, be honest with yourself and others about how you really feel. Don't be ashamed about being alone. Don't be afraid to reach out to others. You never know how others will react until you try. If a person judges you based on whether you happen to have companions, then that person is like a hummus truck with a door unlocked, very insecure. And so you want to make sure that the people that you have around you, the people that you most relate to, right, are people who aren't going to judge you or make you feel bad because you don't have companionship. Your time will come, right? If it's meant to be, right? If that's something that you're really desiring. But most people who are envious, right, or jealous or insecure because you don't have companionship on some occasions might not necessarily be that happy themselves. And so they're trying to project how they feel on you. Those aren't real friends, because real friends who know that you're by yourself and you don't, quote unquote, have companionship, usually are people who are going to just cheer you on with just acknowledging where you are right now and helping you understand that you are more valuable than anything, who are going to root you with where you are right now, no matter what. And so those aren't real friends, right? And so I want to go back to it. I want to continually remind you that um, you're not alone. You are not alone, even in your physical state of loneliness. You're really not alone. And find your village of people who are going to help cheer you on, who are going to help motivate you, who are going to help you strengthen you, even in your time of weakness, even when you feel like you have no one, right? Find your community of people who are going to be, like me and my friend said, your ride or die. So I want to kind of get into my own personal experience with um, being alone. And I laugh because, like I shared with you before, you aren't the only person who has experienced some sense of loneliness. And I can recall some years into my marriage. And like I said, I've been married, it'll be 13 years this upcoming May. Shout out again to my boo. Uh, and I can recall being married a few years into my marriage, rather, and having a conversation with my wife about never really doing anything by myself. And I've never really been the type of person that has really been content with being able to go out and do stuff by myself. No, I could be content by myself, okay? But what I'm saying is going out and doing things by myself. I don't want anybody to take that the wrong way. Like I can't be content being by myself. Because I was content before my wife got here. But anywho, um, so I wasn't necessarily the type of person who would go and take myself out, or take myself out to eat, or take myself to the movies, or go shopping by myself off and on. For the most part, I've always had someone with me. I remember having a conversation with my wife, like, yeah, I've never really done stuff by myself. Like, there were times that I wanted to, but I felt really weird about kind of taking myself out. Like, oh, I'm gonna take myself to the movies. Oh, people gonna think I'm weird because I'm by myself. Or, oh, I'm gonna go and have dinner by myself. And when I say have dinner by myself, I mean making reservations and or walking into a restaurant and having a seat at the table and eating. Not taking myself out as in I'm gonna go through the drive-through and that's gonna be me taking myself out. No, I've done that plenty of times. Nope, that's not what I'm talking about. um, and I can remember having a conversation with my wife about this, and I remember her sharing her own experiences because, as she shared before, right, she worked in corporate America and she lived in a few different cities and states. And so she was by herself often, right, where she had to go out and do things by herself. And I'm like, yeah, I ain't never done stuff like that. Like that's not what I'm about. And she kind of shared, how she enjoyed being able to do X, Y, and Z. And I was like, yeah, she was a little shocked that I had even shared with her that I had never really gone out to do much of anything like that by myself. And I remember she challenged me to take myself out um to lunch one day. I would go to visit her often anytime that I had like a day off. And I remember her challenging me after I had gone to see her because we worked down the street from one another. She worked at the community college and I worked at the bank. And she challenged me to take myself out. And I was like, what? Nah, no, no, thank you. And she was like, no, I'm for real. I challenge you to take yourself out and for you to do something for yourself. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. But I left her job one day and I drove into Cracker Barrel. And for those of you who are in the town that I live in, you know how it was when we had a Cracker Barrel. Unfortunately, it's closed. Now, I love Cracker Barrel. Driving to Cracker Barrel and you got to go around the bend, and then you get to Cracker after you pass a hotel. And I remember, I remember going in, driving into the parking lot of Cracker Barrel, going around the bend, and coming right on back out. Like, nope, I can't do it. I chickened out, and I turned around and I went home. And when I tell you I love Cracker Barrel, but I was afraid of doing it by myself. Um, it was a task for me to go to the mall, right? To go and purchase myself something because I always felt like I needed to have someone with me, right? I guess I was looking for some form of validation or approval. And so there were times where I would go to the mall, I would go and look for what I was looking for, wouldn't necessarily even buy anything, although I had the intent of going to purchase something and then leave right back out. Like because I would become so indecisive with what I was actually there to do, right? Um, and so sooner than later she challenged me again because after I chickened out, I called her like, yeah, I can't do it. And so she challenged me again. And I remember driving in the Cracker Barrel, and I was like, "Look, Imma do it." I have my bag with me because I was like, "Yeah, Imma be one of them dudes. I'm gonna sit at the table and I'm gonna eat and read a book." Right now, if I'm being honest, y'all, I'm a foodie. Okay, so I sat at the table, and usually when I go to Cracker Barrel, I'll order like the Uncle Hirsch. For those of you who know the menu real well, um, but I remember ordering like 2 pieces of catfish, fried catfish at that. Don't forget the tartar sauce and the hot sauce. 2 orders of hash brown casserole and mac and cheese with a lemonade. And don't forget the biscuits with grape jelly. Man, I'm so hungry right now. And I skipped breakfast today. But I sound real greedy right now. But I love Cracker Barrel. I'm almost tempted to want to jump on the highway today just to go. But anywho, let me get back to what I'm getting to. Um, and I remember that moment, it was so empowering. I'm actually really doing this. Like, I am taking the opportunity to actually treat myself. And so I was so empowered. I was so proud of myself. And working in the banking industry, so like that day empowered me, right? But working in the banking industry, there were certain days like President's Day, MLK Day, days that we consider quote unquote minor holidays where the branches may be closed, but the bank in itself is still open. And so because I worked in HR, I was so empowered by that, right? That as opposed to staying home, right? And we had a sitter, I would still call the sitter to come and keep my son or my sons. Shout out to their nanny. She was the nanny and the auntie all at once, Loretta. And she would come over and she would keep the kids, and I would go and take myself out to breakfast. I would go and take myself to the movies. I would go and take myself shopping. I would go to Airbnb or the coffee shop or bookstore, just from that one day of my wife challenging me. And from that day on, I never look back. I never look back. I look forward to the moments when I don't have to work and everyone else is working, right? And I can go and I can actually go and treat myself to breakfast or to the movies or, to out to lunch, or to go shopping and to do something I actually really want to do, by myself. And I'm empowered of being able to do that now because of my wife challenging me. And I'm not afraid of taking care of myself anymore. Um, the phenomenon, as we know now today, has been called, it's been coined, self-care, right? And it's a huge phenomenon. And so from that day on, years ago, I've been since empowered to take care of myself. And so I want to kind of help you figure out ways in which you can celebrate yourself today. And the first one that I want to take, especially with it being Valentine's Day, is to take the time to meet new people. And again, all of this is related to that Forbes article. They go on to say, learn new things, pamper yourself, or maybe even all of the above. Take yourself to go and get a pedicure, to go and get a massage. Trust me, if my massage was open today, I would definitely have actually booked an appointment today. Choose an activity or a goal to accomplish. Go to the museum, plan a bike ride, attend a concert, read a book, go to Barnes and Noble. It's my wife's favorite spot to go to treat yourself to a new skill or teach yourself a new skill, meditate, take a class, find a gathering to attend, cover yourself in toilet tissue. Now, I'm gonna say not that, with the cost of inflation, with as expensive as household products are these days because of inflation. Don't do that, but go ahead, get you a bunch of covers and ball yourself up in the covers and do nothing. And I know some of these things might be a bit of a struggle, right? At times, especially given the climate that we're in now. But I challenge you. I challenge you to do something on today that you can be unapologetically in doing so. Don't live in sour grief, but make the most of today and challenge yourself to go and take and make new strides, something that you've never done before. Yesterday in church, my pastor Joe A. Brooks mentioned something that stood out to me. And he said, never schedule a sad day. Grief comes and it comes in waves. So don't schedule grief. I want to remind you that regardless of the day you are having, for you not to allow yourself to remain and or schedule that sad day. You're sitting here comparing yourself to the next person when you could be living the life and enjoying every moment of it safely because of the pandemic. You might run into somebody, right? Never even expecting it. So take the time out to do something for yourself, be meaningful in doing it. And in the meantime, focus on enjoying life and living life to the fullest. Thank you so much for taking an opportunity to sit here with me today and just to listen to me. I love y'all so much. And I'm so happy that you all are taking the time to listen to Morning Motivations with Matthew. I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.